So today we are in the utility room to go over how to change a whole house filter system. I got a well, so this is the pressure tank for the well pump, which has got a big bladder in it that pumps the water up, which compresses the air, and then that air then forces the water through the lines to give you pressure for the house. So the water comes out of from the well to the pressure tank, has a pressure regulator that kicks on and off to run the pump, and the line goes back to the well to run the well pump. Comes off of there, got a drain valve, got a shutoff valve. Comes from there up to our water filters. And so to change these out, I put two in line. The first one is this one here, which is a 5 micron just sediment filter. And then the next one in line is the carbon block filter, and that's just to take the taste out of it because we have a lot of hydrogen sulfide here. So this one's mainly to get the rust and particles out, and then this is for flavor. So in order to do that, first thing you want to do is shut these off, which is turn clockwise to shut those off. And then it's got a little bleeder valve up at the top here. You push that, it releases the pressure. And I typically do these both at the same time, although this filter could probably last a little bit longer than this one, but I generally go based on the color. Once this has got a nice rusty red color to it, then I go ahead and change it out, which takes, for this well, approximately a month or 2 months, sometimes up to 3 months. But typically about 2 months is about the most I get out of it. So the next thing I do is take my filter wrench, put that on here, and then break that loose. Getting on this one, and break that one loose. And these, do not over tighten these. If you over tighten that sucker, it about break your arm trying to get the stupid thing off of there. So just tighten it up enough so that it doesn't leak. It's got a rubber gasket seal on the top of it, and it's perfectly good. Just compress that enough so that it's not dripping any water out of there, and that's all the tighter you need to go. So if you can open it with one hand, that's the correct amount of pressure. You shouldn't have to apply more force to that. This wrench is plastic, and you don't want to have so much pressure on there that you're breaking this plastic wrench, because then you've got a situation where now you can't get the stupid thing off. So from here, I'm gonna unscrew the filter and then dispose of the cartridge, and then I'm gonna wash out the inside of this to get all the rust residue out of it. So now the canister is removed. I did that off camera because I had to use both hands so I didn't spill water everywhere. And when this shuts off, it actually has a bypass valve in it, which allows the water to continue to flow through here even if this filter isn't on. So I don't have to shut the water off to the house to get that out of there. So I'm going to do these one at a time and take them to the utility sink and wash them. Now I'm at my nice clean utility sink. I'm going to dump the water out of here. Let that filter stand to drain some of the excess water out before I throw it away, because they're kind of heavy. And then looking at the container, I can still see that there's some residue in there, so I'm going to use a little bit of dish soap and scrubber to get that out of there. Alright, so now we have the container washed out and rinsed thoroughly. And the nice thing about having that bypass valve is you can actually wash out your container, because you actually have water pressure. If you shut off your whole house, then you don't have water to wash the container out with, unless you save some in a bucket or something. But all right, so we're going to get this screwed back on here, and I'm going to go just to basically snug for right now. I can hear it grabbing that rubber washer. And then we're going to remove this one. Now I'm going to change this one out. Now, this filter, this carbon filter would technically be enough to filter the house if that's all I had. But I like having that pre-filter for rust because it really helps show the rust when it's ready to be changed. And I like having 2 filters, so that's what I did. All right, so filter number 2 is at the sink. And this one doesn't stain near as badly as the first one does, so probably won't have to scrub it as hard. And a good bottle brush really helps. This is not a good bottle brush, but at least it's something. Okay, so put a drop of soap in there, fill this up, and then I want to commence the scrubbing. Okay, now we'll give it a good rinse, and make sure you don't lose the rubber washer. All right, a couple rinse cycles, and we're good to go. Now, I actually used the Berkey filter for the final filtration for my drinking water, and I used that for quite a while, and is a really good system. Apparently, the EPA, in their infinite wisdom, decided they wanted to change some of the rules so that this is really hard to do with one hand. They wanted to change some of the rules so that, because the Berkeys take out arsenic, and also they take out chlorine and stuff. And so apparently they didn't like people having really clean water. So I don't know all the details on that, but it was kind of interesting. That's something I just came across here recently. All right, so I'm gonna need both hands for this apparently. And it's important to do everything in the same order, so that way you don't forget what you're doing. So the next thing I'm gonna do is tighten the filter back down. And basically, I should be able to tighten that like with one finger. Should not be taking both hands and reefing down on that. And I tighten one, and then I tighten the other. I could tighten one, but then I'd forget that I tightened it, and then come back and over tighten it. Or just forget to tighten one altogether. So by doing them at the same time, it keeps me from messing up. Okay, then I can open up my valve. Let the water pressure back in. And apparently I don't have it tight enough because it's leaking, which is really hard to manage everything and film at the same time. So it could be that our rubber gasket got cockeyed in there, and it could be that I just didn't tighten it down enough. So we're gonna go ahead and tighten that up a little bit more. Usually I like to stabilize the filter with my other hand while I'm tightening it up, and I couldn't do that with one hand. It's easier to gauge pressure that way. You may need to just go just a hair more. All right, and there also is some sealant that I could use on that gasket to make that gasket slide a little bit easier. And I used to have the tube sitting here somewhere, but who knows, when cleaning up it might have got moved or thrown away or something, but I can see if I can find that. All right, so number 2. All right, and that's what we like to see. And that water spraying out all over the place. Now, if I was to press that valve now, it would squirt a stream of water out of it. But I don't really want to do that because I got electrical stuff. So while I'm here, this little device saves on electricity. I can set this for when the power is the cheapest and when I'm home, and then it has an override switch that I can hit to turn it on if I just need more hot water, and that keeps this hot water tank from running constantly when it doesn't need to be running. So I'll come back in a little while and double check to make sure that I don't have any drips coming out of here. And so from there, it goes, it's hard to see, but it goes through here into water softener system. And then from the water softener, then that feeds the water tank and then goes to the rest of the house. And another thing I like to do is insulate my hot water pipe and include a shutoff on the hot water pipe, so that if you're changing your tank out, you could just simply shut off both valves, isolate the tank, and remove the tank. And it was also handy because I did have a problem with my temperature pressure valve, which popped off and it wasn't working correctly, so I had to change this out. And then this is supposed to have a pipe coming off of it, probably going to the outside, because this is on a slab. So best thing to do is either have this go into a floor drain or have the water go outside in case that pops off, because of the risk of somebody could get scalded if the water's just spraying out of here. So they want that to be 4 inches off of the floor. All right, so this takes salt for the softener tank. I can show that at another time. And we're gonna move on to my next phase of filtering. Okay, right now I'm just purging the lines for about 30 seconds to let any additional trash that may have accumulated while I was cleaning out the filter to go ahead and wash through the line. So we're done with that, and the next thing we're gonna do is we're going to change out my next filtration part, which is my reverse osmosis system. So I've labeled these so at later time, in case I forget, I know what's what. So I have the reverse osmosis, which is in the center, and I pretty much almost never have to change this because I don't have chlorine in the water, and that's what eats up the reverse osmosis filters. And then here's the pre-filter, which is a light color, and then the post filter, which is a darker color. So we're gonna go ahead and change those out because it's been over 6 months, so I'm gonna go ahead and change them. So here's my cartridge for the filtration system, and it's got its own seal in the bottom of it. So the neat thing about these is you don't even have to shut the water off. You can just simply unscrew the cartridge, take that out, and put the new cartridge in. Now this thing comes with a little eyedropper that you can put a drop of chlorine in there, and then you're supposed to run the water for a certain length of time. I'm not terribly worried about a couple bacteria, so I don't really mess with that part. So pre-filter, post-filter. And boom, that's all there is to it. And this set actually came with a replacement battery to put inside of here. And this has got a little indicator light. Whoa. Oh yeah, and you gotta purge the air out of the line. So this has got a little indicator light. When that's blinking, that means that the filter's ready to be changed. So it's got a built-in timer in there. I can typically go a little bit longer because I'm already filtering my water before it ever gets here. And that indicator light will tell you when they recommend changing the cartridges. But I can typically tell by the speed of the water. Once it starts slowing down, I can tell that it's time to replace the filter. And the same with my water pressure in the house. If my filters are getting filled up, I'll notice a reduce in water pressure. So we're gonna let this guy run for a little bit, and then I gotta figure out how to get into the battery compartment, which is kind of tricky because it's over here on the side. So I don't know if you can see that, but you gotta get under here with a screwdriver and pop this little cartridge thing out and put it back in. And when I've got this brand new, the battery was not making contact, and so it was driving me nuts. I couldn't figure out how come the stupid thing wasn't coming on. But brand new from the factory had a problem with that. So once I figured that out, then we're all good to go. So I've got this cartridge started with the screwdriver, and I can pull the battery out. So then if I pay attention to the way I laid it down here, the positive side's up. So I'm gonna put a new battery in there and then stick it back together. Now, I could just take this and put it right back in. I don't necessarily need to change this battery out. I could use this battery for something else. So since the light is actually working, I'll go ahead and just pop this back in and save that battery for another device. And apparently it's going to take me both hands to line this thing back up. So put the battery back in. Now we have a blue light to indicate that the timer started for the clean water now. Now why is that not staying on? I maybe do need to replace the battery. So I have a second valve here, and apparently that shuts off, so it's on a timer. All right, so this one actually has another system underneath the sink, so that way if one system goes out, I still have another system. And in the interest of redundancy, I also have a Berkey system, and since we have problems with pipes freezing in the wintertime, I went ahead and filled this up, or somebody filled it up that cares about me. And I got a couple extra filters and put those in there because the price just goes up on everything. So these will last a really super stinking long time before they have to be replaced. So filters are all changed out. Only thing left to do is allow the last little bit of air to get purged out of here. And once it starts running a steady stream, then we shut that off, let the pressure tank build back up, and should have clean water. I think there's a recommended time of 30 minutes or something like that to run the water through the filter. If you add the bleach to it, I don't really want to add bleach to it because it puts more stress on the reverse osmosis filter. So instead of doing that, we're doing this. What's one bacteria among friends anyway, right? Oh, one more thing. This is going to continue to make a little bit of a funny noise because the reverse osmosis filter uses water to make the water. So it's got a drain line that runs down and ties into the tube for the trap, and so it's going to continue to make some noise while it's flushing all the air out of the system and charging the pressure back up and getting the pressure tank filled back up again. So while we're waiting for that, yay, blue light's on. Back in business.